Hello everyone, it's Jin'taan here and welcome to another interview with an illustrious member of this EVE Online community. And today I'm joined by someone who I've spoken to before on this channel, but am no less interested to talk to again, and that's Mike Azariah.
Good morning.
So first of all, before we delve really deeply into anything, as requested by a commenter on our last interview, how was your day?
Well, you got to remember, we have a bit of a, as you call, fake time zone differential. So for my day so far is consists of getting out of bed, grabbing a cup of coffee, and fighting the gremlins.
Have you not even had any breakfast yet?
Now I'll have that after we finish this. Don't worry about it. I have lots of fat stores to live off. If I could crawl into a cave, come out in 4 months, and still be alive.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, you're someone who it's kind of hard not to have heard a lot about, given that you wear just as many hats as I do. You're a former CSM member, you're a blogger, you're a prolific helper of new players, but something I've never really heard from you is your origin story, or so to speak. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started playing EVE Online, and what drove you to stick around for as long as you have?
You know, you warned me about this question the other day, and I actually had to stop and think about it because my origin story is like 11 years ago or 10 years ago. So I had to go back and make sure I had my numbers right. For me, the first time Eve showed up on my horizon was the PC Gamer article in about 2005 about the Guiding Hand Social Club. And I thought, damn, that is an awesome thing, but also, damn, do I ever want to get in a game where people could decide they want to end me and do it in such an efficient and total fashion? So it kind of hovered around there, but then I started hearing other bits and pieces of the game, and the one thing that struck me and the thing that got me into the game was something that they don't push that hard, and that's the one server concept. The fact that if you are in Eve, you are in the same Eve as everybody else. If I were to get in a ship, I could come and find where you are. You can find me. It's not some question of I'm in the game, but what shard are you on or which server are you on? It's we're all in the same game together. And that fascinated me because it meant if you did something in this game or if you became famous in this game, it's not you were famous in your little puddle of a ocean of games. You were famous in the game. And if you did something, your reputation built or crumbled. And that we've seen that happen to both that happen to various people through our years in the game. And that struck me as kind of neat. So I came in, then I heard about the CSM. And within a year of joining the game, I ran for the CSM. Lost horribly, but I ran. And I continued to run and continued to play the game and talk to people. And that's, I'm not great at this game. I'm not great at any game. But when it comes to talking to people and listening to them or trying to listen to them when they make sense, that was something I enjoyed doing. And so that became my major gameplay was and still is talking to people.
So I guess that kind of explains how you got into starting to help new players, given that you just wanted to talk to people to begin with.
That and starting up Operation Magic School Bus was about, well, come the end of this month, it'll be 5 years that I've been running the bus. And that came out of a conversation in a podcast that was active at the time, but no longer. And boy, I miss those guys. But it was saying that the new player experience has never been what you would call the most welcoming. And it doesn't convey the social aspect of the game. You need people in there to convey the social aspect of the game. And when This Is Eve came out, the trailer, there was a huge influx of players into the game. And at the time, I was in the CSM, and I and a couple other CSM members volunteered to step in and help the new players, help the GMs, and it was all hands on deck because they had so many people showing up at the same time. And Fuzzy Steve showed up, Sugar Kyle showed up, uh, a lot of the helpful CSM at the time showed up, but I'm the only one who stuck or stayed in for a long period. And it is wanting to see people stay in the game. I hate the burnout rate that they posted recently of how fast we lose new players. And so I wanted to see if I could help stem that tide. And the bus came out of that, where I just said, I'll be the old guy helping, move the goals and set things up. Sorry, I'm thinking of football. I don't know if you ever been to local leagues where there's people who just show up and help set up. They're not paid, they're just volunteers who love the game enough to help make sure that other people can play it well.
Yeah, totally. You almost like a volunteer kind of organization, like a youth organization.
Exactly. And, I don't expect to get anything out of it. I don't, but I get the fun of seeing the game play. I love, occasionally I have old players contact me who ran into the bus 4 years ago and they tell me, the ship you gave me lasted 15 minutes, but it was great. Or I still have my magic uh, Vexer or my magic Incursus in a hangar and, look back and love it. And every time I hear that a ship is remembered or that I'm remembered means that that player is still in the game to remember. And I consider that a win, not whether the ship, pardon me, not whether the ship lived or died, but that the player is still here.
So, what problems do you feel like new players face right about now, speaking generally? I'm sure there are a lot of things there, but what are the most pressing ones?
Right now, the biggest one that we're looking at is the fact that ISD doesn't seem to be recruiting and we don't have the moderation in the rookie help chat that we should. So when the trolls show up, we're hit or miss as to whether or not they can be handled. It is noisy in rookie help chat right now because all of the Koreans are being routed to that rather than to the Korean help chat. And I don't know why. I refuse to say it sounds like a simple coding issue because hell, I've talked to Carker. Nothing is a simple coding issue. But but that one makes rookie chat it's scrolling fast. It is a very busy channel and it's hard to get the help to the players. Over the past 2 or 3 days, I'm replaying the new player experience for myself with a brand new character and Twitch streaming it just so I can experience the changes that they made. There's one that's really interesting is you no longer start with a ship with a miner attached.
Yeah, there's a lot of little tweaks that have been going on lately, and I want to talk to you about those later. But how does the Magic School Bus really go into helping those new players? Is it by giving them more specialized ships that they can then use to explore different options rather than just having one Velator with a gun on it and a mining laser on it and players inevitably trying to mine with that rather than using something better?
Well, the funny thing is, one ship I don't hand out very often is a venture because they can get one of those from the career agents. And the most common thing said by the vets and rookie help chat is yes, do all the career agents because you get so many free ships and so much free ISK out of it. You'd be stupid not to. But what the bus gives out is ships. Well, I start with a frigate, and they are, believe it or not, more than half of them are PvP fit with either a scram or a disruptor. They still could be used to run PvE, but I want to give them a almost generalized ship that they can modify or work to their best advantage. And so if you're between 1 and 7 days old, you get a frigate. If you're between about 6 to 20, you get a destroyer. Again, fitted just the best I can for an alpha. My biggest goal with the ships is to have a fit that works and is as minimal training necessary as possible. So the odds are when I hand it to them, they can get into it or at worst do an hour or two of training and get into the ship and fly it. And then if you're between 20 and 30, I also have a few cruisers, a Vexer or a Rupture, that sort of thing, also fully fitted out. The point of the bus is to show them a couple of things. One, what a fully fitted ship looks like. I don't mix guns, I don't mix tank. Two, to get them to be willing to take a risk because it's drummed in as one of the mantras of Eve is don't undock in what you can't afford to lose. But when they're starting out, they don't have anything they can afford to lose. So giving them a ship that they can actually go, I got this for free, I can use it. And if I die, I haven't lost any of my assets is a real boon to them. And they say, I may go blow this up. I say, do go out, have fun. The bus will be through another time. I only give them one shot, one ship per visit. But every time I visit the system, if they say hello up until 30 days old, I will give them a ship. So there are some people who've gotten 2, 3, 4 ships off of me just by hanging around or asking when they see me, where are you today? And I will, in Rookie Help Chat, I am forbidden by the ISD to advertise the bus in Rookie Help Chat. I cannot directly tell players, I am in this system, please pay attention to local. So I have to find ways to skirt the edges of that. But unfortunately, it is, according to channel rules, it's advertising and giveaways, and they don't want scams to come into the Rookie Help Chat. And that would be a gateway to having permission to do this. They know I'm not scamming, but they can't vet everybody who comes in and would start doing it. So it's easier to just shut the door completely.
Have you shared the fits that you use for the Magic School Bus in the fitting suggestion things that I know CCP's working on the forums at all?
No, I haven't. But if anybody wants to look at them, they can click on my bio in game, and at the bottom of my bio are 2 channel listings. And the only reason I made those channels was to share the most common fits the bus hands out. So there's an A and C channel, which is all my Amar and Caldari, the frigates, the Desis, and the cruiser I hand out. And then the GNM is the Galente and Minmatar fitting channels. So if you want to see what I give players, that's totally visible. And you're right, I should make an effort and kind of share those fits. I don't claim to be a fitting god, though. Understand that I had an entirely different set of goals when doing my fitting than your average person does. So I've had some vets in Rookie Help Chat just scream when they see me sharing fits because they go, that won't do anything, or why the hell do you have this? And part of it is driven by, the low fitting requirement goals. And the other is sometimes it's what's available in the trade hubs because I have to fit 30 to 60 of these at a time to stage out to the various career systems. I cannot fit it with stuff that I would be dependent on buying one at a time or here and there or traveling all the way back to Cheetah to get, because if I'm fitting it for Minmatar, I don't want to do a haul all the way from Cheetah in the bus. The bus is a bowhead, and I don't know if you've flown one of those, but they're slower than orcas and turn like a tanker.
Give me a minute, there's a question on the tip of my tongue here. I'm just trying to figure out how to formulate it. Never mind, it's gone.
Okay, one other thing I'll add. Some people ask what the bus is. The main bus, and the reason I call it a bus, is the bowhead. Because for those of you who haven't flown one, I can fit 60 fitted frigates in a bowhead. And so I will buy, fit, and ship 60 fitted frigates to the various career systems of a race, and then go back and do the same. It's about 30 destroyers and maybe a smattering of cruisers on top. So the main bus is a bowhead making the deliveries. But on a weekly run, if I don't have to do a restocking, I could be flying almost anything else. I've been known to fly, usually my favorite ship, other than the bowhead for usage, is a destroyer, because then I can flit from station to station and not go for coffee as I warp from one spot to the next system. It lets me be faster, but it also makes it hard to say when I'm going to be flying. I think right now my character in game is in a Kiki, but there's been other times this week where I was flying a Macarial just so I could, if I got bored between one flight and the next, I'd hit an emerging conduit on the way through and then continue on if I survived.
Do you mind going into explaining quickly just what career systems are, just in case there's some new player listening to this and they're wondering how to get to the bus?
Okay, when you start the game, you start in what's called a rookie system, which amazingly is not the system where you find your career agents. So you run through the tutorial there, and at the end of the, I think it's 10 missions of the tutorial, you're recommended to click on the agency, which would be Alt M, and head to the nearest career system for the career agents. They are a set of agents who will train you in various PvE things such as industry, business, military, advanced military, and exploration. As they train you in this, they will give you free ships and a fair amount of ISK. It's probably the best money you're going to make for a while. So to skip that is to purposely, empty one of your pockets out that you can have a decent start on. The career systems for each race, there are three of them. It depends on which starting race you chose in the game becomes part of the determinant of which system you started in and which career system you started in. And so each race of the four races has three career systems. This keeps it from getting overcrowded in any one at a given time. So, oh man, I could name them, but I wouldn't have the connection to the races. Uh, but you can look them up. But as I said, if you hit Alt M and do career agents, you will find the system nearest to you. I talked to at least a couple of players who've gone to the effort, and I don't know why, but done all 12 career agents when they started out, like all 12 career systems, which would be all 60 career sets of missions or agents, and four of the agents have 10 missions. The exploration is 5 missions. And so they wound up with stockpiles of ships and ISK all through, but it is very repetitive. If you do the exploration mission for Caldari, it will be exactly the same as if you did it for Amar or Minmatar or Galente. Same mission, just different systems to go to. If you like grinding, I guess you could do it. I wouldn't recommend it myself, but every player is different. Um, but yeah, I don't have all of them memorized off the top of my head. I could start babbling Clelian, Couster, Trussair, Maluker,
That's fine, that's
Embo.
fine.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this whole Magic School Bus project is something that's great for new players, but how can listeners get involved in either helping that or helping new players themselves?
Okay, helping new players themselves mainly talk to people. But the horrible thing is a lot of new players don't, they close local. And I try to encourage having local open because, well, let's put it this way. Do you have local open when you're playing?
Yes,
Why?
because I need to see who's in local.
Exactly. It's a habit that later becomes almost a necessity, especially if you're flying in low or null or even in danger. If flying stuff that could be a target, you have local open. But the new players close it because it's just almost like a chatter to the side. And I'm trying to train them to watch local. It's one of the conditions of the getting something from the bus is you have to speak up in local, and then I'll give you speak up, dock up. But it has to be done in local. I do not have any way to talk to them otherwise. I tried fireworks at the station, but every time I shot them off, they all docked up and ran and hid. Fireworks are scary, I suppose. I think a lot of players are dogs. Um, so, uh, to help, talk to new players, send them a message, remind them to watch local. You can also donate to the bus if you want. And if you believe that I'm not a scam, I've had vets accuse me of being a scam until they come to, a career system and find out, damn, he is handing out ships. I've got some vets donate ISK, other vets donate ships or fittings. That's one of the reasons why I posted the fittings on my bio is some of that stuff, especially guns, sometimes even the trade hubs run out of the stuff I do because I buy it in lots of 60, that I'll wind up unable to ship my fittings just because I can't even make them in the trade hubs. Renz, I'm looking at you specifically. Uh, if you but talking to the new players is the best thing you can do if you can afford it, and if you're rich and tossing some money to the bus to do things. I was talking to Yin. Sorry, I always call you Jin for some reason. I do apologize for getting your name wrong.
Oh, everyone does it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I get picky when people call me Mike Azariah. So, I prefer Mike Azariah. So if I want my name said right, I have to say other people's names right. Uh, but we were talking about even setting up a magic school bus station to do moon mining, to invite the players over and to try their hand at that. Contact. We all know that the thing that keeps players in is social contact. This game is really boring if you play it solo. If you make the social contact, whether it's by joining a public fleet, going on a roam, getting shot by people, believe it or not, counts as social contact. But interacting with other players is what makes this game last for the players and what makes this game last for CCP. We are what drives the game. So if we don't help and talk to players, this is one of the reasons why I hate bots. Bots are the antithesis of what makes Eve work. So the same thing goes for the broadcasters, where you see, what was it? Somebody called it face rolled names with a number after them, all, orca mining a huge patch and not interacting with other players. Now, I know some players who have large orca fleets, but the ones I know also are social players. So I'm fine with them having a huge orca fleet. I'm not fine with the ones who are just leave me alone. I'm trying to make my S go away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So if you want to help, and you want to help with this, because that's the easiest, shortest way to help, then you just send some misc to Mike Azariah in game. Either you think I'm a scam or I'm not. I'm not, but you're welcome to believe otherwise if that's the kind of Eve player you are. If you're an industrial, oh, there is one other thing. If a vet is in a career system, I also carry a small container with BPCs, and just so they don't feel left out, I will throw them a BPC for a cruiser, a battleship. Occasionally, even carry a BPC for things like the Astra Hus or mobile depots, whatever. And so if they say, I'd like I'm getting into mining, or I'm doing mining, or just passing through, I'll throw them a BPC for a procurer, never a retriever, because I hate those ships. But a procurer, I will throw the BPC for. And just to encourage them to continue the chatter in local and to tell the players, look, this guy is legit.
Alright, so outside of the Magic School Bus, what other services are there out there for newer players to take advantage of?
Well, the ones that I know of, there's probably lots, and there are lots of corps that are recruiting in high sec, in low sec. Unfortunately, I do want to say this up front. Be very cautious of large net recruitment efforts. There are people who will just scrape all the names from Rookie Help Chat and send a blanket invite to the corp. If they haven't made the effort to get to know you or even know what you want of the game, they're probably not going to make that much effort with you once you join their corp. So, and there are some that are actually totally exploitive, who will jack up the taxes and use the new players as their own personal little money fountain. So, while I encourage you to talk to people, I also encourage you to avoid the people who are not talking to you but just using you. And that does happen. I won't name any corp names because I haven't checked them out directly lately, but there are some who have had, there's that story that the goons did that rescue service for an exploitive corp about, what, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, I remember that, the kind of work camp, as it were.
Yeah, well, I'm fairly sure that those are still going on, still happening. So finding a good corp, finding the right people to go to is part of it. And there's an excellent article in the forums on how to find the corp that's right for you. But in addition to that, there's things like Grey Gal's project of the Redemption Road that will take new players on roams into low sec and null sec. If you want to get a taste of PvP, probably die. That is a great thing to do and to join their mailing list and just know when they're doing it. But once a month, they have a newbie roam where if you show up, they will even provide you with a fitted ship so that you have nothing to lose and everything to gain in experience. Learn the various basic commands of fleet so that you don't look like an idiot when you go out otherwise. And so nothing to lose and a great chance to go out, get a few kill marks or be in on a kill. I these are the things that, like I said, I wish there was a way, a route to talk directly to the rookies in rookie chat and say this is a good thing to do. And like I said, I understand the ISD position on this, I just disagree with it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly from the CSM minutes, Greygal's roams have one of the highest retention rates ever after players experience them.
Yeah, and there are other ones. Grey Gals teamed up with, I think it's called Fleet for Fun, and I'm probably getting their name wrong, and I apologize to them because they do some great stuff too. There are other fleets and other groups that are willing to do teaching situations. I really miss in the old days, there was, oh, who was it who ran the PvP lessons? Oh, damn it.
Agony Empire?
Low, no, before them. Oh, damn it. They just disbanded this past year finally, but they ran a school. See, Eve Uni is also a school and a very trusted institution overall, but I get a few of the vets who are whining that their stuff is out of date. And yeah, unless the volunteers keep it up, it can get out of date because Eve is continually evolving and changing. And to join Eve Uni is a process that's almost cartoonish in its length and timeline, which for a new player who doesn't understand that Eve is a long game can be daunting when something can take, weeks.
I guess that leads on to one of the questions I get most often from newer players, which is just, do you know of any other good corporations outside of the major null blocks that help new players grow? You mentioned Eve Uni there, but is there anything else that really springs to mind as a direction for new players to look in?
There are a few that I've chatted with the CEOs, and I haven't heard back from a lot of them. And partially, like I said at the beginning, Eve is about reputation, and the hardest thing is to build a reputation. I've always said it's easy to be an asshole, but I decided right at the beginning I didn't. I admired the fact that assholes and assassins existed, but I decided I'd play an honest game, which is going against the tide in a game like this. But it's gotten me to here where I can legitimately ask for donations and actually get some from people who know of me because my reputation in the game is I do what I say I'm going to do. So I will see groups organizing and trying to make a brand new mentoring or teaching organization, but I can't really route players to them until they build a reputation of being successful at it. But they won't be successful at it unless people route players to them. So it's that catch 22 of we would have given you the job if you had experience, but you're never going to get experience if you don't get a job.
So let's wrap around to something that we talked about just a little earlier, and I want to ask you, what's your opinion on the latest changes that CCP has made to try and streamline the MPE? We went from the very storyline focused Inception version to what we have now, and I'm curious as to how you've seen that impact rookie help, given that that's a place that you frequent pretty much daily.
They fixed a few of the pain points and added new ones. Like I said, I was shocked when I found out that you get people, how do you mine? And they're looking at videos that are more than a month old, and all the rookie ships start with a miner. Now they don't, and so they're trying to shoot the rocks with their with their rail gun or whatever, or their laser, and saying it's not working. And then the vets, this is why every time they make a change, I have to go back and run through the new player experience just so I can find out what they're talking about and why my explanation isn't working. And it's usually because of a mistake on my side, not their side. They're not being stupid. It's just the rules changed again and I'm playing by old rules. So I did I liked the Inception style new player experience, except for one critical thing. It made the player feel like they were important, which is normal for things like in fantasy MMOs, you are the chosen one. In Eve, you aren't the chosen one. Hell, you aren't even the chosen 100. You're just an average Joe like everybody else. You can either make or break on your own. And so it gave false expectations to the game. And I think all it did was, I'd love to see the stats on it, but pardon me, I suspect that it just stretched out the drop off till people got to the end of the story and said, now what? What's next, Mr. Storyman? And there wasn't a story to follow. It was they had to start writing their own and they couldn't. So I like the new one, just basic. Here's the ship. Here's what you should try. Now you're on your own. Good luck. Poof, push them out of the nest and see how many fly. The funny thing is, a really common one is I get players who can't get past the first step in the tutorial. Where's the wreck that I'm supposed to loot? And there's a huge blue flag on it on the screen. I played it 2 days ago. I know this. So how are you missing it? And but they are. And so I think I almost wish that some of the players or some of the devs would do the same thing of play through on a regular basis new player experience, even with their knowledge. I don't care. But I talked when I was in the CSM, the devs said they actually go out and find Icelandic volunteers to play through these things or get play testers, and they stand over and they said they're almost fighting not to scream in their ears, "It's right there, you moron," watching and they're amazed at how dumb brand new players are. And it's not dumb as in they're stupid people. It's they have not learned the basic nomenclature of right click everything, or if in doubt, look at your overview. And so it's the little things that we as veteran players have as a habit ingrained into us that the new players honestly don't know of. And as a result, have difficulty with the most basic things. Um, I've mentioned it before, but not today. I was a teacher for 30 years. I'm retired now, but uh, when I taught fractions at the high school, the first thing I would start with is, okay, today we're going to do fractions. The entire class would groan, and I'd say, yeah, I know, you've forgotten it all. It's okay. I'm going to go back and teach the basics. Then we'll get into what we're supposed to do. Because I'm assuming you don't remember anything of what you learned in grade 4 and grade 5. And the kids would look at me going, why are you different than all the other teachers? Well, because I get tired of teaching on an assumption of a foundation only to find out halfway through you still don't know what the bottom half of a fraction is. So I am a firm believer in reinforcing the basics, but finding out what the basics are and making sure that the players know things like right click. Like the funny thing is, in the new player experience, it doesn't mention it doesn't mention the mechanics of how to do things often enough. It doesn't build that habit of look to your overview, right click, do this, do that, just how to do the basics so that they can move around, so that they can find things. You understand what I mean? Like we miss the mechanics of what to do.
Just the very, very basics of actually interacting with the client rather than the more long-term stuff that I think myself and other people often focus on. Like, I normally think of things like the skill training system or the level of power that new players have access to, those being the kind of things that would determine them staying or not staying. And you're saying it's more to do with literally being able to understand and interact with the game properly.
Right, interfacing with the UI. I've made about a few videos on a YouTube channel that I call the lessons. And when somebody says, how do you use drones? I'll just link my drones lesson. How do you find the data box in exploration, which is one of the hardest steps from exploration 205 to 305. It just says, okay, now find the data, which means fit all the modules. Remember to load your probe launcher. Go out, use Alt P to bring up the probe launcher and not just launch the probes by firing it, which a lot of people do, and then say, I've got my probes out, now what? And I almost guarantee I know what's happened if they fired the probe launcher like a weapon and have no idea how the probes work. And so I made a lesson video on a walkthrough of all of the exploration stuff. But if you watch it, you'll see I'm saying, now I right click this, now I hit Alt P, and I say I hit Alt P so that the players know what mechanic I'm using to interface with the UI and how I'm making the things happen. Because if you watch a lot of videos, the people say, now I open up the probe menu, but they don't tell you how they opened up the probe menu. And all of a sudden there's a menu and a map and you're dragging things around, and they're not saying whether I'm right clicking or left clicking. And then the map rotates on its vertical axis. And again, they're not saying what button on the mouse they're pushing to make all of these things happen. So I'm drilling down to the basics of, what did you do? How did you do it? How does a player get the same result?
All right, well, that about wraps up the questions that I had prepared for you, and I just want to thank you for spending the time to sit down and talk with me this morning. Is there anything else you'd like to mention whilst you're here?
If you're a vet listening to this, which odds are you are, talk to the new players. Remind them to watch local if that's all you do. Get them to build the habits. But remember, one of the lines when I'm flying the bus, you'd be amazed at how few people ask, why are you doing this? Like the rookies say, I'll have a free ship. You give them a free ship, they say thanks and leave. They don't ask, why is this happening, or what is this all about? Matter of fact, I actually have special presents for people who actually think to ask why. But one of the lines I say is, the bus is supported by vets of the game who want you to stay in the game long enough to fly with or shoot at. And it's true. If you support the bus, or if you support getting the rookie players, there are more targets in the game. So if you're playing a violent game, think of how boring it would be if nobody else was playing. If there's nobody to PvP with, the older structures, the older organizations get bored and log out and don't come back if there's nothing to do, or if they're doing the same old thing over and over, or having slap fight RVB wars in null because everybody's blued everybody else. There's not an actual fight. I think to a certain extent, the large null organizations know this and purposely don't do a war to sweep all of null into one basket, because they know that would be the end of their gameplay. And they could say they won, but they would also say they won and the game is over. So we need new blood all the time. We need people to fly with to replace the bitter vets who are leaving. We need people to shoot at to replace the targets who quit. So that's what the bus is all about, is keeping the game going. Because hell, like I said, I'm at 11 years now, and still playing. And I'll probably play until they carry me out feet first, which, given my age, is, it's going to be a race to see which ends first, me or the game. Because Eve is dying, but then so am I. So I just turned 60. So I get kind of bitter about that. So that's talk to the new players. Mentor somebody, do something. But even if you shoot and pop somebody, send them a message going, dude, that was a really poorly fit ship. You should be flying something like this. And give them, the smart rookies will ask questions. The other ones, maybe send them a message, not saying, get good, noob, but give them a message of, yeah, that happens. You came into null, you walked into the wrong neighborhood wearing dollar bills on the outside of your suit. What do you expect was going to happen? Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should join us. recruit, do stuff for the game and for yourself. Because if you're playing the game and you help it, you are doing things for yourself, not just for the benefit of CCP.
Alright, well, that will end the recording. Thank you very much for coming along, like I said.
There are times I start sounding like a preacher on the soapbox, aren't there?